Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are on this beautiful spinning rock. It is Burgundy and Gold postgame live debuting again. First episode of 2025, week one for the Washington Commanders is in the books. Commanders and Giants. Washington get a 21-6 victory at home against the Giants, who are, I guess I'll just go ahead and cut the script and go straight to editorializing, are way worse than I thought they would be. My good God. Well, we're going to get into everything. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for bringing us along with you after week one, wherever you are. If you are in the car on the way back from Northwest Stadium, if you are in the car driving around, if you are on your laptop, wherever you are, we are streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, and we are very, very grateful for you joining us. Burgundy and Gold postgame live, presented exclusively by sportsjourney.com, and it's a perfect segue into welcoming our regular guests from sportsjourney.com, Mr. Bob Matthews, Mr. DJ Bland. Really excited to get you guys back on this. I missed you boys. It has been a half a second since we cracked the mics for Burgundy Gold postgame live last. I am Tanner. I have certainly consumed more carbs, and I have a beard now. So lots
it looks
has
good on
changed. Hey, listen, someone's got to do it, Bob, right?
Right.
Someone's got to keep up with your good looks. So me and DJ,
I don't know about that, but nevertheless.
I was talking with DJ in Lake Lewis a couple weeks ago, and we were all on a call, and both men just have fantastic facial hair. So I was like, I got to do something about that. We got to make that happen. So really excited to have you guys on. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for tuning in. Reminder, if you have any questions, comments, you want to jump into the conversation, make sure you're doing so in the chat. Whether you are on X or on YouTube, on Facebook, throw your comments in there. We will get you guys into the conversation and make sure you're liking, retweeting, getting this out so we can get as many people in the conversation as possible. If we missed your comment, I apologize. We had one of the games last year where we had a couple comments coming at once. I missed them, and I just got 3 or 4 DMs of like, why didn't you read my comment? So we're going to get to you. I promise we will. But really, really excited to jump into this one. Commanders 1-0, a 21-6 victory at home. It was ugly at times. Washington really couldn't seem to put the Giants away until the very end. But a lot to feel good about, I think. And we're gonna jump into everything. I want to welcome in our guests here, DJ and Bob. DJ, I want to start with you. Just your overall takeaways on this one. Washington get to 1-0. It's not particularly convincing, but the one thing I will say before I get to you, DJ, I know I just threw it to you, and then I'm just going to take the mantle right back, if that's okay with you, is that this is kind of the story of week one. Every single year we talk about week one as being one of those really kind of odd times, and it can really bleed into week two and week three. Bob mentioned something very astutely where he said, I believe he texted us in our group chat, and you said, this game reminded me of Washington versus New York in week 2 of last year. And very, very true. Very true. Washington couldn't they seemed to be doing 90% of the work on offense, but it couldn't close it and turn them into touchdowns last year. And that kind of felt a little bit like today, but this is kind of the story of week one. DJ, I'll start with you and get your overall take on this one, and then we'll kick it to Bob.
Yeah. I just think it's just kind of one of these things we got to get used to. Starters don't play a whole lot during preseason, and Terry was gone all of camp. I think you saw that with the missed. Really, it was a missed touchdown. They're not together yet, so those things are always going to show up. But I think you're going to find that with a lot of these teams during week one and maybe even into week two. The penalties, though, they have to correct that. You can't have on the day 12 penalties for 89 yards. They had 7 for 44 at the half. That's got to get cleaned up. Some of those I do not agree with, but it is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? So got to clean that up. But overall, man, you talk about a defense that is aggressive, tenacious, but it is a controlled aggression. They're not getting out of position, allowing passing lanes or allowing run lanes. Russell is Russ, and he's going to find those, but they were also sure tacklers, and that's what stood out to me. Offense, I just want to say Jaden is surgical, and whatever he was working on in the short game, it looks really good, and it only can get better from here. So I'd like to see more from the run game, but it seems like this team kind of takes advantage of whatever they're having success with, and they'll beat you with it until you decide to stop it. So a win and move on to a short week 2. Wow.
Yeah, very short week 2 against a really good Packers team, I think. Bob, go ahead. Give us your thoughts.
I think the biggest thing we saw is you saw the difference in talent level of both teams and how the Commanders now are that team, that's way up here while the Giants are way down there, because I don't think the Commanders played anything, close to their best game. Jaden seemed to throw behind a few receivers. You had a few overthrows that could have been scores and big gainers, and you had the Bobby Wagner penalty late that would have ended the game a little bit earlier than it did. And yet you look at the final score sheet, they didn't give up a touchdown. Jaden still wound up with over 300 total yards. So, you've got to think that it's just going to get better from here. And the good news for anybody that still had any scar tissue left from the last 30 years, you can pretty much you can officially now bury that if you haven't yet. It's a new era. This team is one of the best teams in the NFC, and barring any sort of, catastrophic injuries, knock on wood, it's going to be a team that's going to contend this year.
Yeah, and I think that's what spoke to me the most, to your point there, Bob, was just I remember every Redskins team I ever grew up with, every Washington football variation or Commanders team I grew up with was, if you had a 3rd and 11, you just get your punter ready. I mean, it was just, there was, you didn't convert. I mean, there was no such thing as converting 3rd and longs. That was never a thing. And it seems like on 3rd and 11, you feel like, oh, dude, I feel better about converting 3rd and 11 than 3rd and 3, because you just know JD's going to sit back there and find somebody. Today spoke to me about that. You had a lot of really, really good 3rd down conversions. On the contrary, I think too, JD obviously as good. I mean, it just shows you how good he is. I thought he was really off today. I thought his accuracy was off early and often. I thought he was missing guys. And it wasn't by a lot. You're right, DJ. It was just by a little bit. It wasn't by a lot. But in the NFL, those margins are what make up the difference. I mean, Terry McLaurin beat a guy, and he was about to waltz in for a 50-plus yard touchdown. Jaden just overthrew him. You had guys over the middle. You had Zach Ertz with a drop in the beginning, which was a drop from Ertz, to be fair. Yeah. But if that was a little bit ahead of him, he catches it in stride, and that drive is continuing. So I think there's a lot you want to see improved in this, but I think there's a lot of really good to take away from Washington here. I thought the defensive front was fantastic today. I thought Washington were getting immense pressure. We'll start defensively here. They were getting immense pressure on Russell Wilson with 4 guys routinely. And it wasn't very complicated. It was just dudes beating their assignments. It was Javon Kinlaw right up the middle. It was Daron Payne having a massive game, 1.5 sacks for him. Guys off the edge. It wasn't very complicated. It was just guys doing their job and doing it really, really well. I thought the defensive front was great. I thought overall the defense was great. I thought other than some boneheaded penalty, obviously the suplexing from
Marshawn Lattimore, yeah.
I would love Marshawn Lattimore to just rein it in a touch, just a little bit. I mean, just calm down a touch.
I don't know. I didn't have a problem with that at all. Like, the guy what are you going to do? If they weren't blowing the whistle, so you got to get the guy down. It wasn't like it was aggressive or anything egregious. My problem is Runyon gets to come in and knock the helmet off of a guy when the play is completely over, and you're calling a tackle because he was able to, WWE him over his shoulder. But, I mean, he's bringing the guy down. Like, I didn't think it was anything overly aggressive or anything that would have been, it didn't show of any kind of bad character or conduct.
The only thing I'll say, DJ, is that routinely in the NFL, it's the same. I think it is exactly the same as the Bobby Wagner roughing the passer penalty, which was really close. But here's the problem with Lattimore, and he just has to understand this, is that whether it's a correct call in theory or not, whether it is the right thing in practice to call, they're going to call it. You're suplexing a dude, they're going to call it, whether it's stupid or not, right? If you go 27 and a 25 and a cop pulls you over and gives you a ticket, he is within his legal rights to do so. Whether it's dumb or not, you kind of know the rules, and that's what it is. The enforcer is always going to be and I thought the officials were bad today, to be totally clear. But for Wagner's one example, Lattimore's the other example of just know the situation and know that the current tenure of the league is they're going to call that. Yeah. So just don't do it. Just don't do it. It's stupid, but don't do it. But other than that, I will say this. He was locked down today on Malik Neighbors at times. I know Malik Neighbors went for 72 yards on 5 catches, but I thought he did a really good job. Malik Neighbors is just fantastic. He's going to get his yardage no matter what. I thought Trey Amos looked really good. He looked like he very much belonged. So a lot to like about that defense. Bob, I'll go back to you, and then we'll go to DJ. Let's start on the defense. What did you like the most about the defense, and what were you concerned about?
Defensively, I wasn't concerned about anything. I mean, not coming out of the game. I was concerned with everything going into it. But I think the defensive line was a complete revelation. I mean,
yeah,
I get that Andrew Thomas wasn't in there, but one guy isn't gonna tank the entire offensive line. And I mean, they just dominated. The Washington's defensive line just dominated. So I had nothing. I have no concerns coming out of that game with the defensive line. I think this is going to be a real strength of this team if this continues. Now, I think they're going to take a step up in competition on Thursday with the Packers, but my goodness, I mean, I don't think Joe Witt could probably drew it up in his head any better than what he got today. You're right. Daron Payne with not just with the 1.5 sacks, but he had the 2 passes that he knocked down.
Yep.
Dietrich Wise, I think, should have had a sack. I think he had one wiped out with a penalty. It was defensively, it was great. What I was worried about when I texted you guys in the group text in the fourth quarter was just that the defense had played so well for so much of that game. I was just worried that Russell Wilson would do Russell Wilson things in the last 5 minutes of the game and waste the effort. But again, that's where it goes to show the evolution of this franchise is that, 5 or 6 years ago, that's exactly what would have happened. And they would have lost the game, and we would have said it was a shame because they played well enough to win for about 45 or 50 minutes of it. And now they've got, the players to shut it down. Same way on offense. I think one of Austin Eckler's, I think his last reception, that catch and run for like 15 or 16 yards. I mean, how many times in the past have we seen a defender come flying in and knock the ball out of a ball carrier in a situation like that? But that doesn't happen anymore. Not, at least, not on the regular. So really getting back to defense, absolutely nothing concerned me coming out of that game, I don't think.
Yeah. DJ, what you got?
Yeah. Defensively, it's everything you want to see. All textbook. It's the stuff that I always preach all the time. And it's getting up the field. It's staying within your rush lanes, being disciplined, and collapsing the pocket. Guys that weren't Bruce Smithing it up the field and 10 yards behind the quarterback, leaving a gaping hole for Russ to run through. Guys pretty much stayed disciplined. When they couldn't get there, they kind of stayed in their position, got their hands up. I thought the DBs played well. Linebackers played extremely well in coverage. Just being where they're supposed to be. And the biggest thing is the sure tackling. How many times did we see last year running backs just hitting the hole, breaking through tackles, and getting 4 and 5 yards chunks at a time? They pretty much were not going to allow you to run up the middle. And I think we saw that during preseason when the starters were in as well. They weren't allowing that. And the biggest part of that is the sure tackling. Where you wrap a guy up and get him down. Guys are swarming to the football. Though all of those things are important, and I think you have a tremendous improvement on that defense. And it's pretty good when you can have a rookie out there on the outside on the island there, being able to cover, in all of this with the defense. So, really good stuff from them, and really looking forward to seeing how all this continues to maturate through the season.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
Trey Amos did not have an easy matchup here. This
no,
in
not
week
at
one.
all.
I mean, how many times have we seen Darius Slayton torch a Washington secondary?
Oh
He's a
my
good
lord.
receiver.
Yep.
Robinson is a good receiver, and we know about Malik Neighbors. And if you told me before the game Malik Neighbors was going to wind up just getting 5 balls for 72 yards and no scores, I'd have taken that all day long.
No doubt.
So it's with Lattimore being 100% and Amos proving, right off the bat that he can play. Wow. I mean, you just compare him to, a Benjamin St. Juste start in the beginning of his career, something like that. It's night and day, just night and day.
Yeah, there is no doubt about it. I think this is a huge display. I think Adam Peters should be moonwalking to his car this evening. Because to me, I think this is one of those games that showed, I mean, all over the roster, new pieces contributing immediately. Dietrich Wise was fantastic today. I tweeted before the game that, everyone that I've heard of within and close to the team has told me Javon Kinlaw is going to be a big time player for this team. And I think a lot of people see him on, his third team, and this is a first rounder that didn't quite pan out the way they wanted. And the reality is that this cat is young, he is huge, and he is a game-wrecking talent. He just has to find the right system. And I mean, on the first play of the game, blowing up a play, setting the Giants back on 2nd and 11. And on 2nd and 11, that's a defensive coordinator's dream. You're essentially setting up your defense to say, dude, pin your ears back, go get him. And that's kind of what Washington's defense did all day. But just look around the roster, man. Deebo Samuel's a star. Deebo Samuel is a star. He is not we're coming to Washington to collect a paycheck. We'll get a 2-year deal next year and then call it quits. He's a star, and he is going to immensely improve an offense that I think is it's kind of hard to it's hard to see this offense. I mean, obviously today is not a great example, but it's hard to see this offense markedly improving. I think he markedly improves this offense. But just all over the field, man. New guys, Jacory, Krosky, Merritt, Debo, obviously said Kinlaw and Wise and Trey Amos, draft picks everywhere. Josh Connerly, I thought he struggled a little bit today, but we can get into that. He still was completely serviceable at tackle, had a couple good stand-ups. So for Adam Peters, I think this is an absolutely, take a bow for week one. Ford Purley, again, reminder, everybody, if you are wanting to jump into the conversation, do so. Ford Purley is our first up. I'm no expert, but this is Washington's year. There's only going to get better as the season goes on. Thanks so much, Ford. Appreciate your comment there.
Shout out to Ford.
Big shout out to Ford. Ford is one of our guys. He's always on here at Burgundy Gold Post Game Live. So we appreciate you. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I thought this was a really kind of scrappy, rusty game where honestly, it kind of looked like obviously these guys hadn't played in the preseason. This is just week one in the NFL. But you're right. I mean, this team, I feel, can only really get better from what we saw today. I think, think of if Jaden Daniels hits half of the passes that he missed, even half. I mean, Washington puts up 2 to 3 more touchdowns. I mean, it's not
easily.
Question.
Not to mention at least an easy 3 at the end of the half. If you just go down there and clock it, as opposed to throwing it out the back of the end zone. So they left at least 17 points out there on the field. So I mean, this could have easily been a 37-6 score.
Most definitely.
And I thought that I will say this too. I think there needs to be a lot of heat on Dan Quinn for whatever the end of halftime was, leaving, that clock management was horrific. I mean, that should have been 7. You settle for 3, and somehow they waltz in to the locker room to grab their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and orange slices with 0 points, which is it's inexplicable. I mean, it's absolutely inexplicable. So that is just, but again, you can honestly see these guys, these coaches, like just kind of boneheaded week one things where you're like, I don't know what the heck is going on here. But
I would not want to see that again.
No, that was very Ron Rivera-esque. So I'm really, really excited to not see that again at all.
By the way, for Ford and everybody else watching out there, a little inside baseball for you. And Connor knows this specifically. He was not being facetious when he said peanut butter jelly sandwiches and orange slices at halftime. There are
Yep.
literally PB&Js and orange slices in the locker room at
On 6-foot
halftime.
tables. Yes.
Oh,
on
yes,
6
on
foot.
6-foot tables.
Yeah, this is absolutely behind the curtain stuff. It is on 6-foot, like the foldable tables you guys would stick your drinks on, or Buffalo Bills fans put their shoulders through.
Right.
I mean, and it is a mile high, and these cats will come in here and house those sandwiches. Because I mean, by halftime comes around, especially the early part of the season, super dehydrated guys aren't drinking a ton. They're coming in and all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, they will absolutely house that. And then at the end, I think the thing that was always most killer for me was for 2 years in PR, was walking through at the end of the locker room. By the end of the game, you'd have Maggiano's, or some restaurant would cater dinner for the whole team, and you would just see it all laid out. And me as a PR assistant's running around eating a bag of chips. I'm just like, I could just house Maggiano's right now if I could. But that is for Daron Payne, not for me.
That's right.
So it's just called quickly being humbled.
Good old PR department of the year. I didn't say
you
that.
gotta love it. You gotta love it. So
I said nothing. I said nothing.
So DJ, give me some things that you were most concerned about if you had going forward, at least into week 2 here. It's a short week, but just kind of given the holistic kind of 60 minutes of football we saw today, what's your biggest concern?
Third down conversions, they were 4 of 11. If they converted, and some of those third down conversions not being converted were drops. So Zach Ertz, I need you to find your hands. The Crisco that you had your hands in, please don't touch it again. And some of it's on accuracy. He was maybe a tad off, but my thing is I'm from the John Madden school. If you get your hands on the ball, you got to catch it. So I don't care if it's behind you or what. It was barely behind you. You got your hands on it. You needed to catch it. And those were a few things that did not happen. I'm not too concerned about Josh Connerly and what happened there. You're asking him to, in an offense where, I mean, you guys, you ran it a handful of times. Jaden has 11 of those. Merritt has 10. Eckler with the 6, Nichols 4, and some of that was at the end of the game. So you're asking him to drop back against, I think one of the more formidable defensive lines or defensive front sevens that you're going to find. Great test for what's coming up next week, in my opinion. He did what he could, and it helps that you got a guy that can move around. And I'd like to see Jaden make some quicker decisions. There were some times where you ate a sack and you didn't have to. You kind of put your rookie O-line, your rookie tackle out there to dry because you stood around, and instead of making a decision with the football, he can only block that man for so much time, and then you decide to pull out late. And when you pull out late, you end up getting sacked. So those things I'd like to see cleaned up. But other than that, I don't think there's much to be, upset about with this football team. And most of it is just simple. They don't play much in the preseason anymore. And this is what you get in week 1. And I think if we look back week 1 last year to week 1 this year, I think you have to look at it and say this team is much further along just because the young man puts in the work every day. And you can see that the work has been put in since the end of the NFC Championship game, and it showed up today. So that helps you out a ton when you have a guy that has it between the ears, for sure.
Yeah, it almost seemed like they were toying with the Giants throughout most of the game, which I do not condone, because this is the National Football League, and if you do that, you're going to wind up losing a game eventually that you could have won. Yeah, but I mean, they were just, you never felt like it was slipping away from them, and that's why it was a little nerve-wracking there in the fourth quarter. Yeah, it's the thing. It's probably one of the worst case scenarios you can have, that you're sitting there saying, we've controlled this game for the first 45 minutes, and yet here is our opponent who is one score, one mistake, one busted coverage, one slip tackle away from tying this up and throwing this whole thing into chaos. So, the good part of that is, A, they won, B, they closed it out, and C, at least now they're good enough to play one of those games and not have it, bite them in the butt early in the season, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and this is just, again, I say it way too often. It's really kind of an annoying broken record for me, but this is just the nature of, as your preseason goes to 3 games and as you're only playing really 3-4 full speed drives, over the course of an off season into a training camp into a preseason, like, this really is preseason game number 4 for a lot of these guys. So this is really, the growth is it's kind of only up from here at this point. And I think Washington showed enough good today to make you feel really confident in kind of being able to side brush a lot of the concerns. I mean, my biggest concern today was the 12 penalties for 89 yards. I mean, that was just driving me crazy. I mean, there were just flags everywhere, all over the field at all times. And it didn't really seem to be one specific person. It just kind of was everybody everywhere at all at different times. The offsides from Noah Brown's a killer. Dude, what are we doing? Like, again, DJ, like, did you not look at the ref? Like, this is flag football stuff.
So I looked at that, and that's why I text you guys that, because I looked at it. He looked over. He does what receivers do, and the referee didn't say anything. And then you want to call him offside? Like, he looked right at you and were like, "Am I good?" I mean, come on, man. That was my only thing. So, I don't know whether he took an extra step and his head was leaning into the neutral zone. I don't know, but it's like, man, you're right down the line. He looked right at you. You gave him the signal, and then you want to throw the flag. So which one is it?
Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Yep. It's
and the upside of Noah Brown's performance today is 3 targets, and he caught 2 of them for 27 yards. 13 yards apiece. So I'll gladly exchange that for that offsides.
Yeah. And I mean, he was the one. It was I believe it was his catch that ended up getting negated anyway from it. So that was the killer. It was a big play, and it gets negated from that. But it just seemed as if kind of everywhere, all over the place. They just seemed about a step and a half off. Mm-hmm. And every time the Giants kind of almost gave them an opportunity of, please end my life, they just wouldn't take it. And they just kind of hung around. So I will segue really quickly. This is a Commanders postgame show. I want to segue really briefly into this before we get into our kind of final thoughts and our preparation for next week. The Giants, they are a tire fire. They're a mess. Yeah. And I understand. I tweeted, and I'm going to stand by this confidently, that the Giants have way too much talent on that roster, especially on that defense, to look as befuddled, as disorganized, as uninterested as they do. You think coming into this year as Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, as guys that are on the hottest of hot seats, needing to find a way to get some life into your team, and you're not even through week 1, and Malik Nabers, you're arguably your best player, is screaming at your coach. I don't know if you're a Giants fan, how you could possibly leave week 1 and feel any worse. Your team looked bad. Your quarterback looked horrible. I mean, I was shocked how bad Russell Wilson just. I mean, I understand this is his 3rd team in 3 years. I get it.
Go look at Pittsburgh though. I mean, that was textbook Russ that we've seen in Pittsburgh. It is just right here. And then when you don't give him time, that's what he does. Sidearming stuff in the dirt.
It's incredible. But this is the thing that has always amazed me about guys, like the regression from, and it really needs to be a study. If I could get a psychological study going of the Carson Wentz's and the Robert Griffin III's and the Russell Wilson's, like, guys who were so good at doing the opposite of what this is. You get pressure in your face and you're flustered and you're flinging balls in the back of the end zone and you're sidearming in the dirt. You're just sitting here going, you did this so well for almost a decade, it seemed, and it just completely fell. This Giants team's a mess. They're a mess. And I think the danger that they have going forward is that this locker room will implode quite early. But Malik Nabers' face, I think the way that his kind of mannerisms throughout this game really did kind of show you that, I don't know, man, they're in for a very long season. if they can't, rattle in this locker room. Bob, I'll start with you.
To me, the striking thing is the way you describe the Giants is the way we probably could have described the Redskins 7 or 8 years ago.
Yes.
And that shows you how little difference there is in talent. I remember for so many years, Lake and I would be sitting at training camp and we would say, this team has some pieces. There are some pieces here that, can be really good. And it's the same way with the Giants. I mean, again, Neighbors, Slayton, they always have good tight ends. Their running game has been, not today, but, their running game has been okay in the past. And yet, time and time again, they implode like this. And they're going to keep imploding. You're right. I said before the season, they're a grease fire. They proved today that they're a grease fire. I figure, Jackson Dart gets a start in about a month, just so Daboll and Shane can try to make it through the end of the season. But it's, if you didn't know beforehand, you know it now that unless some miracle occurs, the writing's on the wall for the two of them. They might as well go ahead and put some real estate. Put some real estate signs in the front yard.
Just start taking the pictures off the wall. Start putting the spackle up there. If I'm Jackson Dart, I am rolling an ankle real quick, and I'm getting right onto IR.
Unless Andrew Thomas comes back really quick.
Yeah, indeed.
It's unbelievable.
But I don't think one guy is going to fix that offensive line. And again, it just goes to show you how. Our good friend Mitch Tischler from Monumental Sports, the big man, says it all the time. It's you build it from the inside out. He always says you got to take care of those offensive and defensive lines. And
we
they
saw haven't drafted well. Evan Neal was a healthy scratch. I mean, they can't draft at all. Evan Neal's a first round pick. I mean, that's a healthy scratch today. Which is just that is. They are an absolute mess. They're way worse than I mean, I knew they'd be bad. I didn't think they would look as just completely uninterested and inept as they did today.
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say they're bad, but my niece, who I know my cousin has Giant season tickets. My niece was at the Jets game with a friend, and she was rocking Jets gear. So I've got to figure out what that's about. But if that's happening, things can't be good.
Yeah, it's closing time. DJ, go right ahead, my man.
This has been in the works. I mean, you got a general manager that couldn't see the forest for the trees and didn't know it was smart to keep Saquon. That's why you ended up paying the quarterback Daniel Jones because he had a running game. And then, it's just becoming of this team, right? You look at what the organization has done as far as, we managed to get then the Redskins in trouble for a salary cap deal that was an uncapped year, and yet they ended up having to deal with that. They've done things that have gotten other teams in trouble. But this team is about as, a lot of it starts up front, and I don't think Daboll's ego won't allow him to have success. It's about as big as his bald head. And, you can see it within that whole thing with Jaden. I thought was really ridiculous how they managed to pull that up as if they are so stinking smart. And it shows really the stupidity that exists over there from top to bottom. And I don't know. They're going to waste the defensive line because they don't have an offensive line. And only thing I say about Jackson Dart is Jackson Dart has the ability to move a little bit, get himself moved around within the pocket. And I'm not saying it would be perfect. I'm just saying that you might have a little bit of better of a shot, but I'm not rolling my first round, which should have been a second round pick, my first round pick out there when I don't have my best offensive lineman out there either. So they're small at that running back. I just think this is what it's going to be. Fortunately for them, Dallas Cowboys fans, you might not be at the bottom after all.
Yeah.
Never underestimate what can happen down there in Big D, though.
Down there in Jerry World, you never underestimate. Blake Walter Show. I don't follow the NFL, but I enjoy the show and your comments. Thank you so much for the comment. Blake. He also says hi to DJ up there.
What's up, Blake?
You got a fan.
Yeah, man. He's low. He's always in at the Not Bland show. So
That's
thanks
the
for
man.
coming
Nice.
over and checking this out, brother.
Thanks for checking us out, Blake. Lonnie V says Bucks win, Bucks win. I was just watching as Atlanta was driving. Did anyone catch the end of that, DJ? What ended up
Yes.
happening there? So Bucks obviously got the dub. How did that happen?
They did. There was two good shots that Penix had at the end zone. Great play. Great play by veteran safety. Really, it was a catch for a touchdown, and he plays through the ball and basically just knocks it out of his hands. I mean, he literally caught it. Would have been a touchdown if he was a step late. They did all they could. It was a very close game, though. A lot closer than it really should have been, in my opinion, because I thought the Bucks had played better ball. There was too many mistakes. Atlanta doing Atlanta things, and they still managed to, by the great play of Michael Penix Jr. to make a running play on a fourth down. He was stopped darn near 4 yards short, and because of his height and his athletic ability, he dove and was able to get the touchdown without his knees touching. I don't know how that happens in the world of earth and gravity, but he managed to defy gravity and do that. So, it was a heck of a game. Probably a game that the Bucks probably shouldn't have been in a dogfight because they really did own the game. But I also look at it as it's the first game of the year and it's a divisional rival. This is what you get. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Great game, but Bucks managed to pull it off.
Good old NFC South football.
They won't get swept this year by the Falcons.
Yeah, no, not this year. Not this year. If they have anything to say about it, let's transition into this week. So we've got a lot to kind of unpack this week. It's going to be a short one. Washington will be flying up out of Dulles Airport on Wednesday to get up to Green Bay on the road. It's a tough task. I mean, week 2. This is not an easy time to go right into prime time on a short week. You've got a lot to clean up, and not a lot of time to do so. Tomorrow's going to be kind of, meeting day, rest day. Tuesday is typically in the NFL. You're kind of everybody's off doing your treatments day. Wednesday is your full practice, and then onward and upward. But Wednesday being a travel day, they're going to try to squeeze in obviously a full practice on Tuesday. So tomorrow is going to be half rest, half film study. But I'll start with you, DJ, and then we'll go around the horn. What do you want to see? I mean, give me some things you obviously. I mean, there's a lot of obvious things we want to see cleaned up. The penalties. We're glad we didn't have any turnovers. Jaden did get sacked a decent bit today. The Giants were able to get home a couple of times, but just walk me through what you want to see going into Thursday as kind of immediate must-have changes for Washington to go 2-0.
On possessions where you're in the red zone, finish. Make sure you get those 7. I'd like to see more third downs converted. 4 of 11 is not going to cut it. And as I have red zone on to my left here, it's not like the Detroit Lions, even though they are down by 10, it's not like they're not having success against this defense. Yes, they have horses. The way to combat speed is to throw screens, to have a quarterback that can get out of his own way, and do the things that they do best. A lot of stuff that goes over the middle. Guys can sit in the zones very well with this football team, and I think that will slow down that pass rush if they can have success in those areas. And it's not like they couldn't have had the success. They just dropped a lot of balls today. And if they don't do that and they convert those things, I think it's not going to be as bad as it could be. It's going to be a tough game. But like I said, watching out of the corner of my eye here with the Detroit Lions here, they are moving the football against this team. And, I think you got to also think, yes, they have Micah Parsons, but I see Micah Parsons with his fist on his hips right now, kind of breathing hard, and he hasn't had an opportunity to really get his football legs either. So you're probably seeing Micah at the right time. He's not going to be out there. They're probably going to have him on a pitch count. I believe they're going to have him on a pitch count today as well. And I mean,
on cortisone shots too, right? I mean,
he's epidural. I thought he got
is.
So, who knows how much he's going to play. But I think you got a good test this week against a Giants defense that has a good front seven that can get after you. So that was a nice test for this football team, and they were able to kind of pass that test, and would have passed it with flying colors if they just made more plays. So
Yeah.
I don't think. Earlier, I know once Micah Parsons went over, a lot of people saw this as being a really, a kind of scary game now that he's there. But I don't think it's as scary as it people think it is. I think that this offense has every opportunity to be able to take advantage of this defense. And I don't think you see him play as much as we think. So if they can do those little things, the rest of it has been excellent. So, I think you just rinse and repeat on the rest of it and cut out the lack of third down conversions and catch the football and hold on to it. You'll be fine.
You'll figure it out. I like that. Bob, what you got?
Yeah, it's a lot less scary going up to Green Bay being 1-0 as opposed to being 0-1. So that's one of the biggest things. I think you're absolutely right. I think Jaden was probably a little rusty, so let's see him be a little more accurate, even though he still had over 300 yards of total offense, so that's good. Take care of the penalties, see a little bit of incremental improvement in Josh Connerly. But I gotta, I'm really blown away the more I think about it, about the defense. One person that we haven't even discussed here, and the defense had an outstanding day. We haven't even mentioned the name Von Miller. He had one tackle. And we didn't need him to be big. They didn't need him to be big today, because all the pressure and all the outstanding plays came from A, the front four, and B, the interior of the defensive line. So if that's going to be the case, this year, boy, the sky's just the limit when he does, start to roll, because we know he will eventually.
Yep. Next week's game is big. Green Bay will probably win the NFC Central. Oh, there's a throwback, NFC Central. Yeah, it has big potential for an early season game. I think it really does. I think you're right, Ford. Ford Purley, thanks for the comment. I think that is absolutely one of those kind of early benchmark games. We circle on the calendar as kind of, hey, where do we stand here? But I couldn't agree more, Bob. I think the margin for the margin for today being what it was, 21-6 versus it being 38-6 was actually, I think, came down to like 5 plays, to be totally honest with you. And that is the story of the NFL. I mean, we could do this with every game every week, but I do think the margins are super thin. And I think Washington, they get 33% better by Thursday. I think they easily put up 30 points and can move the ball. I think the Packers are significantly a step up in competition than what the Giants are. So we have yet to see here. We're going to go around the horn one last time before we sign off, and then we give a shout out of where you can find all of our stuff. Go around. Let's give an MVP, LVP. We'll get that on the fly. I'll start with you, DJ. Give me your MVP of the game and your LVP.
MVP, I'm gonna say Krusky Merritt.
Love it.
There are some big plays that he made, especially down the stretch. Some huge runs that were just daggers at the end of that game to continue to get first downs. This cat, if there's a sliver, he slides through, and if you don't touch him, he's making house calls. This cat's going to make some house calls from distance here a few times this year.
Yep.
LVP. Man, that one's tough.
It is tough. It's. I think collectively there was a lot of guys who had boneheaded moments, yes. But like everyone kind of contributed to the good and the bad, so it's kind of difficult.
I'm going to say everyone that had drive-sustaining penalties for the Giants.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
Yep. Love that. Absolutely. Yeah. By the way, there were plenty of those. Bob, You got an MVP, LVP?
For LVP, DJ kind of stole my thunder on that one. I gotta agree with them totally. Just everybody that got a penalty can share that, and that's really splitting hairs, because at the end of the day, it's a pretty good game. And for MVP, I'm gonna zag a little here. I'm gonna give it to Daron Payne. You know, for a
Yeah, I
guy that
love
was
that.
so quiet last year, 4 tackles, a sack and a half, a couple of pass deflections that came in some pretty big moments. So I'm going to give it to Duran for that.
Yeah, love that. I think I'll go in with you on the LVP aspect of it. I mean, I think there was a lot of those penalties that just made you put your hand just all over your face. But the reality is every one of those guys. I mean, think about the bad drops that Zach Ertz had, and all of a sudden comes back and scores that first touchdown. Bobby Wagner was all over the field. He had a terrible penalty, and Marshawn Lattimore locked down Malik Neighbors. He had a terrible penalty. I think everybody kind of had their ups and downs. I don't think there was really one standout at LVP.
No.
I'll give the MVP here to Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, I think coming into this season, I don't know why social media has become kind of this is a separate podcast, just the cesspool that it is, right? But there are somehow, for some reason, I always find that every year there's about 4 or 5 guys in the NFL that social media decide to dog on, and they won't let it go. And Deebo, for some reason, was one of them. There's one video that comes out in May of him jogging through basically a walkthrough minicamp. And the entire social media realm and fans everywhere decided he was out of shape and he looked terrible. And this is what Washington traded for. He's at the end of his rope. And and everybody who knew, everybody who's plugged in, everybody who knows anything about football knows that was all garbage, but it really was just a runaway train. He just was their best weapon today. And I think he's going to be their best weapon all year. And that's not to disrespect Terry McLaurin at all. But I really think if Deebo can stay healthy, he's going to be their best offensive weapon for Jayden Daniels. I think it's just hands down. The way that they use him and the way that he was used laterally along the line of scrimmage takes so much pressure off of your offensive line. It really kind of neutralizes interior pressure for teams that can do it really well if you're able to just get him moving and get him outside the tackles. And that's what he did so well today. He's a pass catcher. He's as physical as a tight end. He can run like a running back. He can catch like a receiver. He's unguardable when he is healthy and he's locked in. He's one of the best receivers in football. And today he looked like San Francisco Deebo Samuel. And for Washington, that's everything you could have asked for. I mean, that is absolutely everything you could ask for. So he's my MVP for today. Gents, I can't thank you enough for jumping on here. This has been great. Our first episode, Burgundy and Gold Postgame Live. I want to appreciate everybody from all over the spheres for jumping in and chiming in the conversation. Want to remind you guys, we are all on sportsjourney.com. Sportsjourney.com is our kind of nonstop spot throughout the season for your Washington Commanders news and notes, NFL news and notes. DJ's been covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, doing a tremendous job. But DJ jumps in, and he is 2-screening all year long. DJ's been a star. And Bob Matthews is our official post-game guy. He has all sorts of angles on the Commanders, and you'll see his work as well. Let's go around the horn and see where we can find you. DJ, what do you got going on this week? What's on the schedule? And where can we find you?
We're going to talk a little NHR on the back end. We're going to talk some NFL on the front end of the Not Bland Show on Tuesday at 7 p.m. On the Not Bland Show YouTube, Facebook, on my Facebook, and on the X. We'll be there. We're going to have Mighty Mac on the show for who covers the the NHRA for us as well, and we're going to have some conversation about just how things are going coming in here to the playoffs. You can find me at NotBland21 on everything. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and you can find also my work not just at Sports Journey, but you can also find it at heavy.com as I cover the Jacksonville Jaguars, who win today 23-10. And I also kind of help out with the AFC South with Heavy. So you can find the work there as well.
Fantastic work. DJ's killing it over there. Bob, what do you got on the schedule this week? Where can
we find
let's
you,
see.
So we'll have a game wrap up on sportsjourney.com here before the end of the night. You can catch us on Commanders Daily, courtesy of fanarch.com. You can find that on YouTube. Just search for Commanders Daily. And you can find us there every day of the week. So we'll have a game wrap up there tomorrow. And the Bob Matthews podcast on Believe.com. Not sure who we're going to have as a guest yet. We're still efforting, but we are the only show out there that gets you exclusive locker room access with sound from the players and the coaches. And look for that episode to be up, both recapping this game and then looking ahead to Green Bay, probably Tuesday, maybe might go into Wednesday morning before we get it up there, but it will be there before the game.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah, you guys got to tune in. These guys are the absolute best. I know Sean Aulette's not with us today, but after For the Review returns this week, I'm going to pull back the curtains here in a way that I probably shouldn't. We recorded a show on Thursday, and we had technical snafus that made it unpostable. So that's only the second time in my career that has happened. An hour and a half, fantastic show that absolutely did not and will never see the light of day. So me and Sean had a good laugh on Thursday, and then we cried it out. But we will be making our debut again back on Thursday. You'll catch a new episode after For the Review on Friday on everywhere you can get your podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, sportstrendy.com. Go find us. You'll find Bob's work. You'll find DJ's work. You'll find my work. You'll definitely find Sean's work. And we will be back here for Friday for an after For the Review. And we'll be back here after Green Bay, boys. If you guys are willing to stay up,
I'll have to take a nap, but I'll be there.
I'll be there.
We'll be there. All right. See you guys Thursday. Thanks so much for tuning in.